I want to welcome you once again to the monthly webinar for the National Chimney Sweep Guild. CBC Coaching, we present this webinar each and every month as a member services to you, the great guys and gals that support the industry, that help the industry grow by being members of the National Chimney Sweep Guild. And this month, we're going to talk about something this month. Since we're in January, it's time to start the year. It's time to start things going forward. So as you can see, we're going to share three words with you today in this and what each of these three words mean and why we came up with these three words. Now, usually it's me doing these webinars, Jerry Isenhour, but this month I've added someone else to it, and that is Sheryl Isenhour, who is a coach with the Zieglers. She's a certified Ziegler coach and Ziegler certified trainer. Just released another book today. So anyway, Sheryl, you ready to go with this today?
Ready to go anytime you are.
That's it. So anyway, what are these words that we're talking about? I'm going to give you a little, before we get into the words, I want you to know that before doing this, I actually have polled and talked with other coaches that I network with, and I've asked mentors of mine and coaches of mine. And the words that I've come up with, I asked the following question. What are the major three things? If you could pass a message and come up with three words that if someone could take action in these three words, it could really move them to a whole new level. Like I said, we're going to talk about these words for a minute. But Sharon, when I shared this about the three words with you, and you kind of know, you know what the three words are, what was your thought process on this?
Well, actually, you can usually narrow things down into two or three things if you really search for them. And with the three words you've chosen here, I think if everybody will listen and take action, I think they'll get a good value out of this.
Right. Now, the first thing I want to do is we're talking about three words that are going to transform you, transform your business in 2018, and bring you what I feel is business success. Now, I want to explain what business success is. A lot of times people think that business success is saying you have a company that grosses X number of dollars a year. Or they may think that business success is how big the backlog is. Or they may think that business success is the size of the company. I run 20 trucks. But you see, in my mind, that's not the description of business success. Because the successful business is the one that matches the vision of the person who owns the business. I've commonly said what you got to do when you start a business, you have a business dream. And what you've got to do is turn that dream into your business realities because your business exists is to bring you the things in life that you want. Now, that could be any number of things. And I think one of the things that we often get hung up on is we often want to define success in other people's terms. And that's not business success. Business success is when you start something and the business brings you the ability to do the things that you want to do in this world. That's what business success is. So I don't want you to ever view your success or your failure based on what others' opinion is. Rather, it's what your opinion is. And the business you build is the one that matches the dream that you have and the one that brings you the return that you're looking for. So I want you to understand what our feeling is on business success. So, Cheryl, would you add anything into that about what business success is and define what business success is to you?
Well, first of all, business success to me is having a business at this moment that is viable to pass down to my children. To be honest, that's a business success for me. But I've never have put a dollar amount on business success. I have been extremely well provided for in some businesses. In others, they were more of a personal feeling that I got from it. Now, to me, I base my business on me and on the fact that it can keep up the people that provide the services that work in my business, I see people so often, and I think you do the same thing. You are always valuing yourself by the value of others. And whatever it is, you are the only person that needs to be listed in the values and the values of the people that are around you. But I don't understand people valuing their business on somebody else's bottom line.
Yep. So we're in agreement on this. It's all about what do you, if you wrote a description of success and that's what you need to do, what is your description of success? Not what other people's description is. And your description of success needs to be what your dreams are. And with that, let's move into these three words from polling people. And this was a lot of, these were some nationally known speakers, coaches that I asked this question of, and mentors that I go to, but realistically, it came back pretty resounding. So the first word that I want you to write down, if you would, and I want to talk about this word, is the word communication, because this was the leading issue. And when I've done SWOT analysis and I've worked with companies, just about everywhere I go, when we drill down on problems, we find out often that it's strictly communication. One of the things I talk about is fumbles and handoffs. And we're in business, we're handing off information. But at the same time, often this becomes a fumble, because the information, we're not properly handing it off. So the first thing I want to talk about communication is a two-way street. Communication means you've got to be able to both listen and also to speak, and speak in a way that others will understand you. It's often broached to us in leadership training that we attend that a leader speaks much less, and actually it's almost defined as an 80-20 rule. Listen 80% of the time and speak 20% of the time. And every time you speak, your words also have value. But what you've also got to do in the listening is a very acute skill. Listening requires the following. When you are a good listener, you're not listening to reply, you're listening to understand what the other person is saying and what they're wanting. And many times, if you learn to listen properly, you will hear the things that they're not really saying that tells you what the root of the actual problem is. Because many times when there's a problem, if we actually can get down to it, the actual problem is not what they're talking about. There's something underneath this, and it could be embedded into them. And being able to understand by listening to other people what they're saying, you're better able to understand them. And then in your spoken communication, you're better able to communicate with that person. Now, this is going to transform you as a leader. It's going to transform you as a salesperson. It's going to transform you as a member of your community. It's going to transform you, because when you speak to your community, and I want to define the word community, the community that you have is the community of people that are going to buy from you. So one of the things that you're wanting to do to move to a higher level is learn to speak and listen to your community and become that authoritative voice in your community for what you do. So, Cheryl, what would you add to my words there?
Well, many times when I talk to people, you'll say something about this, about listening, and their answer is, I heard you. Big difference from I heard and I listened. We all hear, we hear sounds outside, we hear the anything going on, but the problem is, are you listening? Do you take the words in and do you process them, or do you just hear them? And I think that's the biggest problem. You hear it, you don't process it, and it goes right out the other side. And that's where people get so misunderstood, because they look at you and they say something and they assume that you've listened, and all you've done is heard the vibes in your ears. You didn't process it. You still don't have a clue what they want. And I always wonder how many times people walk away from a conversation and they have been the quote listener the whole time and they haven't heard anything.
And that's so true. So here's some of the people and some of the groups that you have to learn to listen to command the skill of communication. Number one, you have to listen to those that you lead. You have to learn to listen to those that you lead. And listening means being able to comprehend what those you lead need and what they can add to the business that they have. So often, whenever I work with companies, I find that so many people feel like their opinions are not wanted. Their opinions are disregarded. So after a while, they stop telling what they know, and you lose this valuable resource you have. You've also got to learn to listen to those, who you sell your products and your services to. And this is a really important one. You got to listen to those people that do not buy your products and goods and your services. And you have to learn to listen to those that offer you counsel. You have to learn to listen to all kinds of people because there's tremendous wisdom that is passed on whenever you start to listen. Now, also, you have to be not just a listener, but you have to be what's called a passionate listener and listening to other people in a passionate way that you are trying to absorb all the knowledge that you can. So, Cheryl, one of the things when you went through the Ziglar certification and training, one of the things that I heard and I've researched on Zig Ziglar was that Zig collected thousands of newspaper clippings. And what he did, he would read in newspapers, and like we're often taught today to read books. And when you're a leader, so what you're doing is you are cycling the thoughts of others to absorb them into your mind. Was that true about Zig?
That's totally true about him. He did not mimic a lot of people's words. He made the words his own, but he took the knowledge in. He listened to what they said. He changed it in a way that came out in Zig. And if you've ever seen him do his speeches, you realize he had a passion for speaking. But I'll be honest, he had more of a passion for listening and for learning.
That's it. So what you've got to do is learn to listen. Then you've got to learn how to speak. And you've got to speak in such a way that others will, what I call, buy into your thoughts, into your processes. That's what you're doing in sales. That's what you're doing as a leader. What you've got to do is speak in such a way that you don't force people to follow you. Rather, they want to follow you. And that's the true leader when people are at the point that they want to follow you, not because they fear you, but rather that they respect you and they know that you are doing what you're doing for the good of the team. Would you add anything to that?
Not kind of sort of in that line, but the one thing that I want to say is that I think with listening and speaking, there's a side of listening to what people don't say because that means as much as what they did say. And also the way what you're doing and you're speaking, if you leave out the important parts, they'll miss that also. So you've got to have value. You've got to be able to explain it and talk to people and communicate with them in a way they can understand. The way I would talk to you and the way I would talk to one of my employees would probably be an entirely different thing because they're of a different generation.
Right. And that's also an important thing to remember. And Cheryl and I, one of the things we've done over the last couple of years is we've done a lot of deep research into the generational gaps and how you communicate. And see, that's one of the things as a leader, many times different generations, we hear things differently, we speak differently, and what happens is we don't have a good communication because the words that they're using are not the common words that we used. I mean, we see this around us. I mean, it happened last week. Cheryl and I went to a restaurant, and it was a Mongolian barbecue. So what it was, when they took the order and they said, you have your choice of three starches. And I told the server, listen, I'm 65 years old. I'm not sure what you're talking about when you say my choice of three starches. Now, Cheryl smiled like she's smiling right now because it's like, okay, she does a lot more food research than I do. When you say the word starch to me, what comes to mind in my mind is the starch that my mother used to use when she ironed clothes. That was starch. I never considered starch as part of the diet per se. So, what's the second word? The second word that we want to cover, remember your first word, it was communication. And then from that, the number two word that came into play of a vast number of coaches and mentors of asking this question, number one failing, it's understanding. Understanding. And so often as leaders and as team players, we fail to understand in many ways. Now, one of them could be the generational difference, but it also could be the difference in the values, or it could even be a difference in the culture. Because the whole thing is, in order to understand our intent, we all have to be on a certain culture rise to make this happen, a certain type of culture, or we're not working together. The customers, many times, they don't understand the needs of the business. And the business, do they truly understand the needs of the customer? So I want you to think about that for a minute. Are you understanding? Do you truly understand what your customer wants? Because to be honest with you, many do not. And if you don't understand what your customer needs, then the question is, how in the world are you going to provide it? Okay? Because in a free market economy, there's very few products that you're going to ever be the sole provider of. I want you to think for a minute. What do you sell that only you can provide in your market area? And I think you're going to find yourself very limited. And see, this is where a lot of large companies made a real critical mistake. They didn't understand what the customer needs. If you look around yourself, do you think Sears Roebuck understood what the customer needed? Do you think Circuit City, all these other companies that have disappeared, did they know what the customer was actually needing? But what came along was somebody with new dynamic ideas like an Amazon or perhaps a Best Buy or others are figuring out. Often we don't understand what they need, and our marketing and outreach does not tell them that we provide what they need, what they're looking for. So from that point, remember the old Burger King saying, have it your way? So are you trying to get your customer to buy it your way, or are you willing to provide it to your customer where they can have it their way? Okay? You got to understand the customer that you lost. And many times we truly don't understand the customer that we lost, the customer that's no longer doing business with us. We may blame it on them, but is it truly their fault if they want something and we refuse to provide it in the way that customer needs? Understanding, as a Jeffrey Gitomer trained, certified trainer, one of our principles is that it's billions of times more important to understand why people buy than it is to sell. So the question to you goes out. Do you understand why your customer is buying? Do you understand what your customers' perceived risk are of the products or the service that you're offering? Do you understand the thoughts that are going through that customer's mind and relaxing them in your sales presentation? That's all about understanding your customer. So, Cheryl, tell me about understanding from your standpoint.
Well, I realize that we go into a lot of businesses and we're looking for something. I remember a TV that we were trying to buy one time, and the gentleman just could not understand the needs that Jerry was looking for. And so he kept trying to sell us the wrong thing. If he would have listened and understood, we could have been out of there in 30 minutes and had a product. But he lost the sale just because he couldn't understand. He wanted to sell.
What about the mattress guy? Do you remember the mattress guy?
Oh, more than you can
Here's the
imagine.
mattress guy. We walk into a mattress store, and these are the exact instructions. This is my wife, Cheryl. I travel a lot. She needs a new mattress. It needs to be to fit her. Make sure it's what she wants. If you find what she wants, then you have a sale. That's simple. And I said, I'm going over here to sit down. And what did he say?
Would you lay down on it, sir, and tell me what you like? And he just kept going to Jerry, which really didn't bother me that much, but he was not listening to what Jerry said. Jerry did not care because I sleep on it 350 days a year, and he sleeps on it, seems like 50 sometime. But the thing about it is had he listened, he could have made a sale right off the bat, and he just about lost it. And I'll be real honest, had there been another mattress store close by, I think both of us would have walked out.
That's it. So that's the second word. The second word is understanding. So you've heard the word communication, you've heard the word understanding, and here is the third word. And again, these are the three words that many experts in growing businesses of all sizes shared. And that word is action. And it could also be called execution. Now, execution has two different meanings, and we're talking about to execute the idea and carry it forth.
And so does action.
And so does action. So just think for a minute, and I want you to look back and think over your own. Let's talk back over the last 12 months. How many great ideas have you heard that you may have seen, that you may have heard in a seminar, and how many were put on a shelf that you never acted on? You see, what happens is when we talk action, the failings in actions can be twofold. Number one side of action is the action we take that's not properly implemented. But the other side of action is the lack of implementation. And this is what happens every day. People see these great ideas. I can remember a couple years ago, I heard a guy talking about something called Bitcoin. And Bitcoin all of a sudden has come to the forefront in the news media. And it has escalated greatly in value. Now it's going down, it's up, it's down. God only knows where it'll go. Now, if I had taken action on Bitcoin some years ago when I first heard it, we might be rich today from the Bitcoin. We'd probably be selling it and say, hey, let's cash out right now. Don't know. So, but this is from listening to people, hearing a great idea and not moving forward. Okay. And that's what I did in that. You see, lack of action also kills morale. And as a leader, I want to share this with you. How many times have you went to a seminar? Maybe you're in a mixed group. Maybe you've went somewhere and you come back and you are fired up for action. And you tell your troops, we're going to start doing this. And what happens then? The owner drops the ball. And what this does is when you have lack of action, especially after you've shared it with the people you lead, and you don't move forward, and you don't communicate, and you don't tell people in a way they understand, what happens next is the morale in the company is wrecked. It's wrecked. So the word action, it can be either actions that you take, it can be a lack of action, it can be an action that started and stopped, it can be an action that needs to have a little bit of modifications to be successful. But again, so much of this falls under the words of action. So here, what we've done here, we've went over three words. We've went over the words for communication. We've went over the words of understanding, and we went over the word of action. So here's what I want you to think. Like I said, I promised you three words that can transform you and your business in 2012. So the question to you is, after listening to this, what are you going to do about your communication? What are you going to do to become more understanding? Because this is what you find as you go through life. You're going to continue to transform. And that's what you got to make your decision to do, is how are you going to transform in the year 2018 into new ways of thinking? The world around you is changing. And what we have to do is transform, and that's also called change. We have to change. And this is what life is all about. We go through life, and as we go through life, life is a series of changes. And the bad thing about life is many times we don't change until we reach a major obstacle, until we see a major failing. Well, see, the difference in winners and losers is when there's a winner and he fails, that failure is simply it is going to be fuel for the fire. It is going to be a injection of adrenaline into that individual. He's going to take that failure, and what he's going to do, he's going to take that failure and take what he learned from that failure, and he is going to come back and modify that program, and he's going to move forward. And that's the difference of the people that come up and go to the top. When you look at it, I've done seminars for 5, 6 years now, and it's about the people in this world and how they had tremendous failures, and I've named these many times. Henry Ford, Steve Jobs, the list goes on. But that's what you've got to do. So what I'm going to encourage you to do is take these three words: communication, understanding, and action, and figure out how you can apply these three magic gold nuggets to take your business and transform it and you in 2018 to where your dream goals really are. Sheryl, what would you say about these to end this webinar out?
Well, the words that come to me is for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. I believe that goes with all three words in communication. If you communicate well, your people will communicate back with you. If you listen well, they will listen. If you understand them, they will understand you, or they will try to do their very best. And for every action you take and fulfill after you've told them, they will try harder. But also for every action you don't do on, it's kind of like crying wolf. Next time they won't listen or understand. And that's how I feel.
And that's the way it is. So with that, we're going to end this, and we're getting ready to end this out. And I want you to know this. My name is Jerry Isenhour. My mission is to help you go to where you want to go in life. If I can help you get there, then I'm going to encourage you, let us know. That's what we do here at CVC Coaching. Our goal, our mission is to drive people to an entirely new level. Okay?
And my name is Sheryl Isenhour, and I am here to help Jerry make your dreams come true. Anytime that I can help you, anything that I can do, let's take your passion, your dreams, your whatever you see in life that you need, and we'll help walk you through. I'm here to help you any way I can.
There you go. So from CVC Coaching, this has been our monthly webinar for the National Chimney Sweep Guild. Remember the three words. These are three words of gold. Apply these three words into your life and your business in the year 2018. And I'm going to tell you what, come this day in the year 2019, instead of talking about failures and wondering how I'm going to catch up, you're going to be celebrating your victories in 2018, because you know what? You're going to be living your business dreams. But it's only going to happen if you invest yourself into this. And these three words we feel is going to be the high octane fuel to move you forward in 2018. Thanks for joining us today. It's an honor, it's a pleasure, and it's a privilege to be able to share ideas with you once a month in this forum. Let us know how we can help you reach your business dreams.